Welcome to the Parts and Labor Motorcycle Podcast. It's brought to you by Biltwell Inc. We're going to dive deep into anything motorcycle related. We're going to introduce you to some of the most interesting friends we know. And we might even try to solve a problem or two. You got a question? That'd be cool. Send us a voice recording or an email. pod@biltwellinc.com. pod@biltwellinc.com. All right, good morning. How you doing? Welcome to the Parts and Labor Podcast. We're here with Pete Hot Dog Finlan. We're in beautiful Temecula, California. It's a balmy 72 degrees out here in this Southern California day. It's what the guys back east wish they had, but they don't.
Terrible.
We're going to talk to Pete about painting balls and West Coast choppers.
Sick.
Two of his favorite things.
No, not that. Yeah, we're gonna force it.
I'm just kidding. We're at the Forced Fun Factory with Pete Hot Dog Finlan, and we're going to talk to him about all the pinstriping that he's done and painting of amazing automobiles. Pete, what's your name, your age, your hometown, and your occupation?
I'm 62 years old. I live in Oceanside. I've been there my whole life.
A rough 62 years.
Hey, now, come on. I look good for 62. But my shop's here in Temecula, too, right up the street from Biltwell. I get to do a lot of stuff with those guys. Awesome dudes. What do you want to know?
Let's tell the truth.
Okay. They're terrible.
Well, you know what? I had all these questions written out, Pete, to talk to you about, and then I looked around on the internet, and of course, all these things have been covered many, many times, which I should have known that, and I did know that. But really, I just have one question for you. You mentioned you're 62 years old, and I only have one question for you all day today. How have you managed to not turn into a bitter old man, bike painter, motorcycle enthusiast? This is a serious question. I want to know because I'm not far behind you in age, and I do respect you. And somehow I come time bandit you probably twice a month with some out of town guys. We'll come up to your shop. You'll stop what you're doing every single time you've done this. You make an hour or two for us. You're always friendly. You're always nice. You have also put me on blast a couple times, but you've done it like really, I don't know.
Constructively.
Yeah, constructively, and you weren't rude about it, and it made me pay attention when you put me on blast. And I don't know, I learned a couple things from you. You have a great many stories to share, and you do share them. You're not just this cranky old guy that's in the back with the paint can, and you're over there passing it on to younger guys, Danielson, Coco. You're passing it on to older guys. I see a bunch of old guys hanging out over there too, learning stuff from you.
Yeah.
I don't know how or why do you do all that, because I don't really know too many people that do that with any trade, whether it's construction, car building, bike building, painting. It's definitely rare in the motorcycle industry. People love to trash talk the younger generation, but then they don't help out the younger generation. So I don't think if you're not out there helping the younger kids, like I don't see how you can trash them. If you're holding a shop night and you're trying to teach them how to clean a carburetor, okay, cool. Then you can talk a little trash. But if you're not doing that, shut up, old guy. So anyway, Pete, go ahead.
Basically, it goes back to what you were joking about, force and fun. I still have fun doing this, which I don't know if that sounds weird or not after this. I've been doing it 45 years, but and in my world, there's no secrets in my world, but not other people that do this or any kind of like skilled job or whatever. I think it's a little bit about confidence, and when you have confidence, you can talk and you're happy and you're not worried about that guy coming in and stealing what you're doing. I'm not worried about that at all. Not trying to be cocky confidence, but I
confident
feel like
and cocky is two different things.
Good work, and I have fun doing it after all this time. Even if I won the lottery tomorrow, I'd still have a shop. I'd pick and choose what I did, but I like doing this, and it's cool seeing new people wanting to try it. That's how I'm not an asshole, I guess.
Yeah, so that we're trying not to cuss, but
okay.
I don't know if that's a bad word, but that's all right.
That's part of a human's anatomy.
Yeah,
so I think it's okay. Sphincter.
So having fun is what keeps you from being a jerk to these young kids and teaching them how to do it. And I understand what you're saying. No secrets. I mean, with this thing now, there is no secrets. But no. I've heard you tell other people like what? Why are?
Sure.
It's funny when guys get worried that some kid's just gonna turn 18 and come take their, eat their lunch. You know what I mean? It's like I don't think
you show the phone there.
It's not possible.
You can see people all over the world doing this, but they don't do it well necessarily. They just do it.
Yeah,
and it doesn't take a lot to take a photo of something. So, I see people doing it wrong all the time. That's the ones that I'm going to coach a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to do something, try to do it right. And if you're not shown the right way or explained how to do it right, you're going to get discouraged and you might quit. So then that next generation isn't going to be there. So there's no reason to hide anything or secrets.
Yeah, to feel threatened by the younger guys coming around.
No, and those guys are the ones that keep me going because I see them coming up. So I don't want to just sit back and think, okay, I'm a good painter. I can just stop and do what I do. I still want people to go, whoa, you did that? That's the coolest thing to hear. Not just, oh, there's another one of them things he did.
Yeah. So I think you do a good job with that. Again, I see younger people or just people that don't have the skills that you have hanging out your shop. They're not always young, but they're over at your shop and you're teaching them stuff, whether it's Old Man Tom, or, Coco and Daniel's son, like I said. But then I also see you circling the wagons when you do your Wiener Wednesdays and you bring, like Alan and you bring some old hot rod guys that are over there that have done things at a high level when it was much harder to do, in my opinion.
Yep.
And you get those guys to mix in with the people that maybe haven't been doing it as long or at such a high level, and you get them talking.
Sure.
And you get the younger guys or, the newer guys learning stuff from the older guys. And I think that's why I like to come to your Wiener Wednesdays. It's definitely not for the wieners. They're not that good, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's cool watching
you do that spiral
those
cut
two
thing.
Sitting there talking the whole time.
Man, it's
like
really
you're
cool.
talking about,
And I've been at your place, and there's some heavy hitters that show up there on occasion, especially when you get some out-of-town guys. Man, there's a lot of knowledge being passed around, and I know this is the great equalizer, the phone, but it's just not the same when you hear, when that knowledge is conveyed by a guy that can tell you not only why this is important, but how it's helped him, or give you an example of why you do it this way, and I think that's really important, so it's not just you, you're making other guys kind of impart that wisdom as well. Like I'm not going to show up at Alan's shop ever, but when he's there, man, I'm listening. Here's a guy, he's older, he's got a nice shirt, his truck's backed in, it has his name on the door. It's like, I don't know, this guy probably did something right in his life. Maybe I should listen for a minute and shut up.
Yeah, and the Wiener Wednesday thing has kind of turned into that too, where I don't know if there's going to be 5 people or 40 people show up, and I never know who's coming. So it's cool for me too. That's part of why I do it, besides liking hot dogs and the spiral cut with love kind of stuff.
I'm just kidding. I love the spiral cut. And, man, Pete, just to prove the point that I'm talking about, my dad will come from out of town, and Pete will put on a special Wiener Wednesday just for my dad and get some old guys out there, and they'll talk shop and hold court. And he'll waste half his day doing that. I literally seen him do it, and what that means is Pete's got to stay an extra 4 or 6 hours later, and sometimes I stay late, and I'll drive by Pete's shop, and he's still there burning the midnight oil because he's giving away half his day to 2 or 3 out-of-towners, to make them feel comfortable. And I just wonder how you do it, because sometimes those guys will come time bandit us, and I'll be like, man, I don't got time for this, and then I sometimes I'm reminded of you. Yeah. And I say, man, we'll make time. Yeah. I've often been in my office and I'll hear someone in the front room with an accent, and I know they're not from America probably. Yeah. And our guys are usually good to them, but I like to try to go out there and say, hey, let's take a warehouse tour. Even though it's not exciting to me or you or Flynn, we've seen it every day for the last 5, 10, 15 years almost now. Flynn grew up in the warehouse. Yeah. It might be interesting to them. Sometimes they'll see something like, oh, man, is this the Frijole, or is this, or is that the LMTV that never runs? Yeah, that's it, But you're a good example of.
And my shop's kind of like on another level of that, because it's overwhelming in there, and I take for granted what's on the walls in there and all over the place. So when someone new comes in, they're just staring at every little corner, and I go, what are you looking at? And then I look up there and I go, wow, that's cool stuff up there.
Yeah, that's just the walls. When you start opening those drawers, I've been around. Pete has these little file cabinets of paintings and pictures and posters that he's collected through the years. And when he pulls one of those out and starts telling you that story, like those are the good digging in the crates stories that again, I don't think a lot of guys will make the time of the day to give you, but Pete always has done it for me, and I'm always grateful.
And you can make a silly statement that people are real. The phone and social media is not.
Yeah.
That's kind of fake as you're looking through it. But when someone's standing there and eyeing things and touching things and wanting to hear something or telling me their story, that's cool too. You know, super
You've done
cool.
a good job of passing down that knowledge and lessons and smacking my knuckles nicely.
Awesome.
And I'm grateful, and I always wonder why you make time for us, but I guess you kind of told us a little bit why, because you still like to have fun.
That's right.
And it makes it easy.
It's number one.
when
I
you're
hate the
doing it.
business part of it, but the actual doing it is fun. You know, super fun, actually.
Well, that's all the questions I have. I'm going to turn it over to my business associate, David.
That's good.
Swing over this.
Yeah, exactly. Man, I think so. Like Mike said, just being nice to people and being like dependable and all that stuff is for painters, especially because painters, I've been around for, 20 years in the industry dealing with different painters and stuff.
Yep.
And they are the flakiest people on the planet.
Yep.
It's like, they'll do a couple good jobs and then they disappear. And I blame the chemicals, but, I don't know.
I wear my mask though.
I don't know what it is, but yeah, no, it's cool. Me coming from Detroit, the Motor City, there was a big hot rod culture and custom culture
Sure.
and all that stuff there with all the different shows and the people and, the automobiles coming from there. And I feel the same vibes in your shop. You get on a Wiener Wednesday, you get all the old hot rod dudes and stuff coming through and talking about this, that, and the other thing. And I think, there's not many places in the country where you get that besides, like the Motor City Rust Belt and the West Coast, because so much of that area, those two areas have influenced the whole scene, as it were. It's cool to see.
I always call this it used to be, this was the capital of the world for what I do.
Yeah.
But the state has slowly pushed all those things away. And I feel it all the time too, because I shouldn't say it, but probably 80% of what I use is illegal here.
Yeah.
It just sounds silly, but it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's like, California's tough for that. And it's tough for any business. I mean, we're dealing with stuff now with like, having, specific coatings on garments and stuff.
Sure.
It's like it's going to be illegal soon to have, any kind of waterproofing unless it's for major.
Chrome is going to be illegal here in 27.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just all that stuff. It's just harder and harder to run a business and to have,
It'd be like those other guys.
Choke up on it, Pete.
Yeah, man.
Choke up on it. Got to get you a little closer to the mic. Sorry.
Hello.
yeah, just California makes it hard to run a business, period, is from
It does.
what I've seen. So
It does.
it's tough, but, we make it work most of the time. But, so anyways, back to the hot dog thing. Did you get that nickname because you liked hot dogs? Is that exactly why it came to be?
I wish there was a cooler story, but that's it.
Okay.
Because when I first opened my shop, it was called Paint by Pete, and it was cool and all that, but it started to sound a little kind of generic.
Right.
And people would come into my shop and they would see a wild paint job, and they go, "How do you come up with all this crazy stuff?" And I said, "Oh, Wiener Schnitzel mustard dog," because I like them.
Right.
And then I thought about it when I moved my shop one time, and I thought, I'm going to change the name, Hot Dog Kustoms.
Yeah.
Because not just the hot dogs, I like them, but the people that get this kind of work are hot dogs, like a skiing term, or, you're showing off. And everybody that's showing off is getting this kind of work. So I called it Hot Dog Kustoms, and then the new people that would come to the shop just assumed that was my name. Hey, it's Hot Dog here. So it stuck.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's as cool a story as it could be.
No, I was just thinking about it last night because I've known of Hot Dog way before I met you.
Yeah.
So like I knew your work and I knew what you did, and I, everything from like mini truck lowriders to
Sure.
flames on choppers and
Sure.
whatever else. And it's the nickname things are always interesting.
Yeah, and it's nicknames seem cooler when they're acquired. You don't make it up.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. I made mine up.
Which
And
there's a
I think
lot
it's
of
cool.
people that make them up, and
You don't get to pick your own nickname.
No.
If you try to pick your own nickname, we're picking a new nickname, and you're
Yeah.
not gonna like it. When
Yeah.
guys come out like, "My name's Maverick," no, it's not. It's D-bag. All right,
Yeah.
let me tell you, it's D-bag.
Yeah.
David got lucky in maybe he picked his moto gluten, but
No, not
it
that one.
stuck.
Bob. When I was growing
Bob?
up, everyone called me Davin or Devon or Divine or whatever. My name's Davin.
David.
And I'm like, you know what? Just call me Bob.
Just call me Bob. There you
Bob
go.
is what I went with.
There you go. Bobby Wirtz.
And Bob was after Bob Probert, the cokehead fighter that played for the Red Wings
Okay.
back in the 90s. So, yeah, he was my hero growing up. I played hockey and rode dirt bikes and stuff. And I was like, you
Awesome.
know what, just call me Bob.
Awesome.
So now if I go back to my parents in Michigan, I'm Bob. Like everyone calls me Bob, except
There
for
you go.
one friend. My friend Tanya would not call me Bob because she's like, your name is so beautiful. So I rolled
And
with
nicknames
it,
are cool too, because if you don't want someone to know your real name, you can just throw that out.
exactly. And I try to do that on the interwebs. I haven't put my real name on my Instagram page, or I try not
Yeah.
to, tell people not to say my real name just because it's stupid. And, I like to keep.
And it is weird sometimes when I just had to fill out an application to put the bike I just finished in the Grand National Roadster show, but not that show, but other ones I'll put Hot Dog Customs, and then they'll say, do you have a food vendor's license? All the time. I
Right.
just assume you're serving food too.
That's funny.
No,
Should probably get one.
I should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll probably get in trouble
It's
on
the next thing.
Wednesdays.
How did
California's
you
gonna come
originally get
knocking
into
for 'em.
painting and stuff? I mean, were you like, did you go to art school? Did you, obviously 45 years ago.
I feel like through my whole time doing this, I've gotten, I don't know, I'd say lucky breaks, but lucky times where when I was in high school, I was in art class and when I see younger people too, I go, man, if you draw and you doodle, don't let anybody tell you don't waste your time. Because a lot of people do that and then they stop. And I'll always hear, I used to draw when I was in school. I used to draw when I did this. But when I was in high school, I had a super cool art teacher named Mr. Goddard, who's passed away by now, but he had airbrushes in the class. Wasn't part of the class, but if you finished your normal work, like, hey, draw that corner of the class or draw whatever. If you finish that, play with airbrushes. So by the time I was a senior in high school, I was painting things for teachers, airbrushing T-shirts. And I'm going to say I put checkers on Vans before Vans did. Because this was like 1979 in school. But he encouraged it, to do stuff. Nobody says, oh, there's no money in that job, which that's true too if you choose it to do yourself. But that's how I got into it. And then right out of high school, I went, because since I live in Oceanside, obviously it's a beach community. So down in Encinitas, there was a T-shirt shop called Deluxe Airbrush.
Yes.
And I went there and applied, and I got my first thing of sexism or whatever. I go, yeah, I want to get a job here painting it. And the guy told me straight to my face, we only hire pretty girls. Because you're kind of in a window.
Right.
And they were just stencils, so you just hold something up and make a sunset. And
That's still the best business plan,
it
in
is.
my opinion.
But I thought, okay, I can't get a job here. So I went and got a job at a surfboard factory in Oceanside painting surfboards. And then that just kind of led to cars and bikes, because back then, I don't know how the surfboard industry is now, but they wanted everything for nothing. So it's,
Man, all this stuff has been discussed at great depth on the internet.
yeah.
Let's talk about your half pipe.
Oh,
Let's
the
go
skate
back
ramp.
before you were called Hot Dog, before you worked at an airbrush shop.
Yeah.
You grew up in North County, San Diego, right? Oceanside.
Yep.
Okay. What were the year? When were you a teenager? Early 80s, late 70s?
I don't remember. Yeah, around that area. My ramp, I finally cut it down in like 1981, so I had it for probably 8 years before that.
Okay.
When I was in high school, I built it because I used to skate down at Del Mar. I used to actually work at Vista Skate Park back when there was skate parks in every town, and then like the first death of skating when all the skate parks closed. The only one left was Del Mar, and I used to go down there every day pretty much. And I thought, I'm going to build a ramp. So at the time where my mother lived, there was a big backyard on the edge of a hill. So I thought, okay, I'm going to start building a ramp. And we just went at it and built a cool ramp. And it was probably the only big, like, one ramp around at that time.
Yeah.
Because there was still skate parks open. All the big ramps started showing up when all the parks closed.
Yeah, you're 10, 12, 15 years older than me, but I was a little kid, in the 80s, and even in the 80s it was like a pretty big deal if someone had a big half pipe. Like in this area, there was a couple in Elsinore, there was a couple in Fallbrook. Like there wasn't a lot. You would know about them,
Yeah.
you would hear about them. That's
Yeah.
before there was obviously a phone or whatever.
Yeah.
So again, I didn't know about yours because I was too young, but
Sure.
So you had one of the ramps, which makes it a hub of all things cool, kind of, right? Whether guys know it or not.
Kind of one of the first ones around that was a nice quality ramp with stairs going up, had a channel.
Oh, I had a channel.
It was painted like a light blue, like a pool with tile at the top.
Yeah, that is cool.
We had 2 contests in the backyard without anybody knowing.
Yeah,
It was cool.
That is cool. Again, you go to Pete's shop and he's got his little microfiche filing system, and he can pull out some of those pictures of the skateboard ramp that he had. And why does this matter compared to, talking about your painting and all that stuff? I think these are early influences, right? Growing up in Southern California.
Of course.
Skateboarders are they're not rule followers,
No.
They're trendsetters, they're trailblazers.
Yep.
And those guys were hanging out with Pete. Pete was hanging out with them. Pete put checkers on Vans before Vans put checkers on Vans.
No, that was,
Steve Van Dorn, I don't know if you're listening, but you owe Pete a paycheck. All right. You can send it to me and I'll divvy it up. Steve.
Yeah, that was good times back then.
It seemed like good times looking at those photos.
Yeah. No, every shoot back then is wake up and grab a board and where are you going today? Not even a thought of it. Just hop on a city bus, go to a skate park, go to a backyard pool. Street skating wasn't really big back then because there was a lot of places to skate.
Right.
That all blew up when everything closed and there was nowhere else to go.
So David was doing a pretty good job transitioning into your painting career with your, so you went from skateboarding to airbrushing. Where do you go after that? How do you continue down this road to become the guy you are today?
Well, that goes back to the part where I said I don't know if you had lucky breaks or just lucky times, because when I was painting the surfboards,
I think you got lucky. I don't think you got an ounce of skill in your body, but
no,
that's just me.
That's how I feel. That's why I
definitely
don't abuse it.
This guy.
I spread it around.
Should have changed your name from Hot Dog to Lucky.
There you go.
Yeah.
But that back where you said stuff's been gone over before, but going from the painting surfboards, there was at least 2 times a week, every week, that I would come to work and there's a note on the door that said, waves are good, we'll be back later. So all the guys that are shaping and glassing are down in the water. And I was skating at that time, so I said, screw you, sea hippies. I'm out of here. And I went to go paint at home and do stuff. So then I actually took a college course at Maricosta College, a body shop course.
I went to Maricosta as well.
Yeah. While I was there, they had a note on the door or on the blackboard saying Toyota Carlsbad's hiring a prepper. Cool, I'll go do that. Which, that's the best thing in the world if you want to learn how to paint. Go work in a collision shop or a production shop because you learn how to do it.
You get hours.
Yeah. Instead of sitting at home on a table with tape looking at YouTube videos.
You get thrown to the wolves.
But that got to be where when I was there all day, I wore a uniform, Toyota Carlsbad and all that. And I would go home and make more money on the weekend doing custom stuff than all week there. So I quit working there. I went to work at a shop called Keith's Kustoms, and he was just a pinstriper. And this is where one of those lucky break kind of things comes. At his shop, all I did was graphics because it was kind of like at the end of the van area, and then the mini trucks were coming up. So the dealership still did that, graphics on the mini trucks like in the 80s.
Yeah, you
could buy a Nissan pickup, lift it a little bit with sunset graphic on the side.
So cool.
Yeah. So we did that kind of stuff at the shop, and he just did pinstriping and had a little Volkswagen Beetle set up where you open the hood in the front and it had all the pinstripe paint set up. He would go out to body shops and the dealerships. He got to the point where he said, I don't want to go out anymore. Do you want to learn how to pinstripe? Hell yeah, I do. So the lucky part is I got paid every morning for an hour to practice, which that doesn't happen a lot. Daniel at my shop, I'm always encouraging him to do things, so I want to do that too. But after probably 6 months of doing that, he threw me the keys to that Beetle one day and said, hey, you have to go out to Advanced Auto Body. They have a Cadillac with a door and a fender. Just throw you in the water kind of thing. So I got paid to learn how to pinstripe, which was super cool. That just led into, there was a cool sign painter there. I learned how to do lettering. And I always tell everybody now, learn all of it. Because it's hard to be just a pinstriper or just a painter, just a sign painter. Learn all of it. So that's where I'm at today.
Yeah, you've got a big paint booth. I mean, I know you don't love it, but you'll paint cars.
Yeah.
I know,
I love painting cars still.
I know you like painting bikes, though, more
Yeah.
than cars. How many bikes do you think you've painted in your career? How many bikes have come out of your shop, with you at the home? Whether
Man,
you
that's
painted
a cold
little
question.
or you painted
I
a
couldn't
lot.
even guess.
Because Pete's worked at some famous shops, if you don't know, West Coast Customs West Coast Choppers
West Coast Choppers.
for 8 years.
Yeah.
Then he's been running his own shop off and on. Before that, after that, for a long time. He's got an apprentice that works under him now, Daniel.
It's got to be 1,000 at least.
It's got to be 1,000.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I was perusing the internet last night doing a little homework for this
some I'll
interview.
see a picture and I don't remember that. Okay, now I remember that.
That's how you know
Or
you
somebody
painted a
will
lot.
send me a photo. This has your name on it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I did it.
It's funny.
pretty
Ed
cool.
was here. We had a little parking lot sale a few weeks ago, and our buddy Ed had one of those West Coast Choppers bicycles.
Okay.
With pinstripes on it, and it had your little
That's a
signature
sticker
at the
on it,
bottom of the
yeah.
tank.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, it says hot dog on it. How
Yeah,
cool
that
is
thing's probably 25 years old. Close.
Yeah. Shop closed in 2010.
That one's just that's a well, those bikes were
Before that,
before that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, pretty cool.
It's cool.
Yeah, I don't kind of back to your not getting bitter, and obviously you're still having fun and still learning. I take it. I don't
Sure.
know how else you could keep doing this for that long a time.
Yeah, and that's
you,
part
do
of
you
those
think you
late
learn new
nights you
stuff?
see. I'm playing with things. I'm trying new things
Yeah, you think you're still learning
every
do
day.
you know it all?
Every day.
every day?
No, I'll screw around with paint and do something to it that I know I shouldn't, and then if it comes out cool, it comes out cool. If it doesn't, then don't do it again. No, and that's why I said I want to be the painter that is pushing it. You know, I want to keep making new stuff because all those younger dudes are coming up, and I want to not keep them down, but it's like a subtle way of saying, no, okay, you still got. I'll teach you what you know, but not everything I know, kind of thing.
So you talk about these younger guys coming up. Like who do you think is coming up and doing cool stuff? Some of the younger generation who impresses you? They got work ethic like you, or they got style and skills. Even though everyone's learning,
Sure,
they're the same skills, but they all have their own little
Everyone's got their own flavor.
interpretation of
Yeah.
it, and so it comes
And
out
you- and
different.
you
Yeah,
should.
I make a hamburger this way, you make it this
Yeah.
way, David makes it this way. Who do you think?
yeah,
is
because a
making
lot of
a good hot dog these days.
a lot of guys that I see when they get into the painting stuff, they I don't know if they fall into it or they creep out of the hole of. I say don't put everything you know how to do on everything you do, and that's almost I should make a T-shirt of that. Because just because you learned how to do this latest little trick doesn't mean it has to go on everything, or you don't have to put all of the tricks on each thing.
What Pete's trying to say is some guys don't know when to stop. I think that was what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
At some point you let the bike or the car do some of the talking.
Yeah.
You don't need to, I know how to do this, so I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and dude, it looks like someone
Or
threw
there's
up on it.
one little space on something. I got to put something there.
Yeah,
No,
leave
you
it there.
don't,
Yeah, sometimes it's like music. Sometimes just as important as the note they played is the note they didn't play.
Sure. And like tattoos, guys say negative space.
Negative space.
You don't have to cover every inch of everything. But they either they get in that rut or they started in the rut. And then most people figure it out because they'll look at everything I do looks the same. It's just a different color. But me, when I look around right now, say, I don't know about just in this area, but there's a guy up in Simi Valley, Jared Polk. He's got Valley Kustoms.
Oh yeah, I know Valley Customs. Yep.
Yeah, he's got it figured out now. He's
Painted
mellowed
some
up.
bikes from Steve, Speaking Steve, and
yeah. And then Jeremy Senior back east. He's been doing a lot of stuff. Nicole's practicing a lot.
Coco.
Yeah, Nicole Coco. Daniel at the shop. He's learning. Little too timid still.
Yeah.
So I keep pushing him at it, and he's getting there.
Hey, Daniel at his shop is it's so funny. His name's Daniel-san because he's just like, this is Mr. Miyagi.
Daniel-san.
And he's got Daniel over there waxing on and waxing, sanding on and sanding off all day, sanding on, sanding off. Daniel's got a beautiful pompadour.
Yeah.
Not because he wants it or likes it, but just because he doesn't cut his hair enough. And he would go over there, and Daniel's just got his mask on. He's covered in sanding dust, and he's just over there quietly sanding away. And I would bet this shop on Daniel being an amazing painter one day when Pete can get his other ball to drop.
Yeah. He's really good at the mechanical part. He's just timid at cutting loose. So, and I get it that I'm sure part of it when I tell him, hey, you could do this one, or you could stripe all the stuff that I just did on here. And it's cool to know that in his head, he's going, I'm not ready for this one.
Man, if I was in your shop, I would be scared to plug in an extension cord. You know, like you got the greatest painter, one of the greatest painters of all time. Like, I don't know if I'm doing much cutting loose either.
Yeah.
So I give Danielson a pass. Might need to bring Daniel over here, give him a beer and a little space to paint and see what he does, because I think it's coming.
He does,
but I think you're a little intimidating, whether you know it or not. Even though you're very quiet, I think he might just be a little intimidated by you, Peter.
He'll come out of his shell.
Yeah, he is every day. He's getting closer to it.
Yeah.
I made him do one of the colors on my refrigerator. You know, so that took a lot for him to do that on the striping design on it.
Yeah.
I've had him, you know, like if I did a paint job that had flames on it, he could outline them, but he's a little timid to do it. But he'll do it at home, so he'll get to that point. But it kind of sucks because a lot of the bikes out there right now have that same look to them.
Yeah, and that's why I like coming up to your shop, because every time I come there's a different kind of bike with a different kind of paint job. It's like when I came to ask you to do this, you were, you know, putting an old-timey logo on that realistic flames paint.
Sure.
So it's just all black with realistic flames, and you put a cool logo on the side. Next time I go up there, it's fully paneled dyno with lace and, you know, whatever else. Next time there's an old CFL.
No, and that's those years of I'm going to say the ammunition, because like Dwayne's Born Free bike, he goes, I want it to look like a 90s pro street car. I painted cars in the 90s.
Yeah, that's
so
cool
it's
thing.
easy. Where somebody now is going to go, well, what does that look like? And then they're on that machine. What do they look like? What do they look like?
Well, they weren't alive in the 90s, so you got to cut them a little bit of slack.
I know.
And I know you do. You touched on flames. You would think flames on motorcycles and cars and hot rods would get old, but somehow they haven't, and I love flames. Who's doing the best flames today?
Me.
Yeah.
Okay, I would agree. Who has done the best flames of all time? You might wait a little longer.
All time?
To name yourself as the best flame of all time.
No.
All time. Who, when you were a kid and you saw flames and you were stoked, who was painting them?
It would be like Rod Powell up in Salinas.
Okay.
Or Art Himsel.
Art Himsel, yeah.
Concord.
Yep.
Who's down here doing them? Well, Dave Perowitz has been around forever doing them, too.
I was going to say, if you didn't
he's
mention
in
Perowitz.
But I haven't seen a lot of cars that he's done. And I feel weird just talking about bikes, because I'm as big in the car world, too. So there's a lot of guys that are just doing bikes, and they think that's the only world out there. But, man, there's so many hot rod shows and hot rods, and it's a bigger canvas to mess with. And flames, to me, which I don't know if you've ever watched, but I don't make a mark on the car or the bike. It's just freehand layout, because I'm flaming that thing. I'm not just putting flames on that thing. So when I look at something, I go, man, that's a beautiful paint job, but you just missed.
Yeah.
Or you could do it on a beater rat rod with primer. If the layout is right on, it looks like $1 million. So it doesn't matter how much money is on it. And again, people don't want to practice. You know, they wait till they have, like if David brought me a tank, now I'm going to do it. No, I'm going to do it on panels every day and on the cabinet door, because it should be natural, not forced.
Yeah, I'm sure did you put the flames on that Scion that was sitting there?
Yeah.
That's like flames on a Scion XD is going to be different than a flames on a 32 Ford.
Exactly.
For sure. You know, like you're putting flames on.
But there's people that get in that rut thing of, I can only do that kind of flames, and it's going to be on that motorcycle. It's going to be on that dually. It's going to be on that jet ski.
Yeah.
No, every one of those things is a different shape, so it should have different flames on it. And that's what makes a difference. When you walk up to a car, you go, wow, that looks good. It's because of that. Yeah. You know.
So the secret of flames is just practicing all the time.
Yeah, and it should be, and it sounds silly to say it this way, because I've been doing it so long, it's so easy that it should be natural, because flames would be natural. When you force it and you try to make every turn perfect, and you know it doesn't work, and then you're pulling tape and redoing it, and then you end up with these stop sign shapes instead of a big flowy curve. So yeah, it's just everything's practice.
Yeah.
And then that's where the confidence comes from. And if somebody said, hey, will you flame that Rolls Royce? I'm going to walk up with that roll of tape just like I would that beater truck, and it'll come out just as good, you know. Practice.
Yeah. I think your practice everything is, looking at Coco too. I mean, she's like doing some really cool stuff with all different things. She's good at flames. She's good at panels. She's good at, colors.
Yeah.
Like,
because she's hungry.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It's like her helmet that she did for Parts and Labor last year was one of my favorites. That thing was awesome.
Yeah. And not only was her helmet one of the best, it was the first one I think turned in. So I don't know if she had that work ethic before she hung out with Pete. But she has the work ethic, and anybody that's had a car or a bike painted knows that when you're going to go get a paint job, you have to choose. Do you want it done or do you want it good? You usually can't have both. It can be finished or it can be good. You can't have both, and with Pete, albeit I have picked up many a project from Pete and the paint was still wet, but Pete always finishes them.
It works.
He always finishes them right when you need them. Sometimes you'll have to bring the van because the stuff's still wet and you can't put it in a box or whatever. But Pete's got work ethic. Again, he might not be the first one to the shop in the morning, but he's definitely the last one to leave. And there's many a Saturdays when I drive down the street from my shop and Pete's at his shop by himself, working.
And I hope I've learned over the years.
That's probably what's made him good, actually. I imagine that's what's made you good is you have the work ethic.
Yeah, but that thing with the work ethics too, I hope I've learned over the years, because when I started out, I was that guy that I hate to say the paint jail or robbing Peter to pay Paul, because you just think, oh, okay, I'm going to bring that job in because I need a deposit. And I don't know if it's worse to not have work or to have work in your shop that you're not getting done. So there's a point where you figure that out, and I don't like bringing things in there. Like when I bring a car in, it's one at a time. I'll stack bike stuff because those are easy to kind of go through, but I'm also cursed with I get distracted by shiny things where I could be in the middle of a job that I'm supposed to be doing, and you walk up with a helmet. Hey, can you knock this out real quick? Boom, put it on the table, and I work on it, which I shouldn't. I should say, okay, it goes on the shelf until it's ready to work on, but
well, if I could bust Pete's balls for a minute, he's had my rag bucket at his shop for going on 5 years now. So he's not.
That's yours?
Yeah. So sometimes, but if anybody's ever sent out a project for custom paint, if you've done it more than twice, you've gone to a painter's house and repossessed your sheet metal, and even though Pete just has my rag bucket, he definitely turned out some killer paint for all of the guys that built well. Over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Yeah. And whether it's a brand new paint job on a bike or Pete's fixing someone else's F up or I had a set of gas tanks fail and Pete, I asked him just to spray the bottom, and I came and picked him up, and he didn't just spray the bottom. He pinstriped the inside. He painted the bottom. He laced it. He did a bunch of junk, I just wanted to paint it red, and just Pete doesn't have that that gene in his body, which sometimes is to his detriment, Yep. I gave him a set of wheels to paint, and first he polished them, I think, and then he cleared them, and then he painted them, and then he re-cleared them, or he, and he said, never bring me a set of wheels again. But again, it's kind of to Pete's detriment. He's got that ethic that just won't let anything leave his shop unless it's perfect. Dwayne Ballard has that same ethic. Yeah. I've seen Dwayne spend 2 weeks on a seat and then take a razor blade and cut the seat up and throw it away. Yep. When I know the customer would have paid whatever Dwayne would have wanted for that seat.
And no one else would have noticed.
And no one would have known. Yeah. But Dwayne is such a weirdo that he would take the seat and cut it up and throw it away.
That's why he's my friend.
Yeah, I would have at least took it to the swap meet and sold it, but not Dwayne. He'd cut it up and throw it away.
Nope.
And Pete has that same ethic. I've never seen Pete throw anything away like that, but I'm sure he's wiped a couple things off.
We're fortunate we can sand it off or wipe it off. You bang into leather, you can't change it. Yeah. So I get that.
But Pete has that work ethic that's just not common for painters. I don't know if they leave the hardener out too much in the room or work without a mask or whatever the deal is, but always impressed by you getting stuff done in a timely fashion for us.
Thank you. You guys always have cool stuff to do too, fun things.
Sometimes.
It seems like that's your whole gig here is keeping it kind of fun.
Forced Fun.
Yeah.
Forced Fun Studios, FFS.
That's it too. Yeah. Speaking of that, did you like your trophy?
I did. It was very nice. And I was really caught off guard, actually. It's not rare that I'm speechless, but I was kind of speechless.
Good.
I was kind of speechless. I was not expecting it. It's really good.
Nice.
At my house, I don't really have any motorcycle stuff kind of displayed. I don't know why, I just don't. And at my house, I have that trophy now. That helmet, you know, it's on the credenza.
Good.
In the foyer.
Good.
So thank you.
That one looks like an award too.
Yeah, that's a good one, Pete.
Yeah, that was a good one.
And man, I don't know. It's not just because you're our neighbor, but I could have you paint everything I own for the rest of my life and probably be pretty happy with it. You know, I don't need to find another guy that does this style or whatever. Like I like your style. I grew up in Southern California. Those, you know.
I wish I could get him out of the crust mode though.
Yeah, well, sometimes I just like to Pete bust my chops because sometimes I'll just get something good enough and I just want to go ride it. You know, he's like, no, you need to paint this and finish that, you know, and polish that. And I'm like, none of that stuff matters at 80 miles an hour.
It's high
so
maintenance
that's
anyway.
where I'm a little different, you know, but.
Yeah, as long as you're
Pete
not
says
adding.
that, but he's been running around missing a hubcap on his lowrider truck for about 4 years now. So,
Yep, haven't been able to smog it for 6 years.
you know, so he still he just parks it in so you can only see that one side. You know what I mean? He backs it in on the pretty side. So he don't let him bust your chops too bad.
No, I get it. I totally get it. Way less maintenance.
Yeah,
less upkeep.
But my bike's fairly shiny because of you.
That's right.
And Daniel.
That's right.
I had Daniel paint a tank for me recently, and Pete got a little upset with me. I had to go talk to Dad and apologize. And I jumped the chain of command, you know, and I was kind of in trouble. You know, but he wouldn't tell me. He wouldn't tell me I was in trouble. I just gave me, you know, the cold shoulder. And Daniel had to tell me I was in trouble. So
that's right.
That's why I like Pete. I appreciate these lessons, and don't think that I'm not paying attention. And I know there's a couple other youngsters out there paying attention to Pete. So we appreciate that.
Awesome. I try.
What's coming up next for you? Would you got anything excited in 2025? You got any fun projects? I know there's talk of maybe you closing the shop here in Temecula, which would bum us out immensely. I don't know where I would go to pretend to be working other than my shop. You know, I like to go to your shop and say, I got to go say hot dog. I think that's like code for I'm going to go take a break and hang out on hot dogs and my daughter's time. So we'll be bummed.
No, and I've been at this shop up here 10 years now.
That's amazing. I can't believe it's been that long.
I know, it doesn't seem like that. But along with that whole thing of it's tough in California, especially to be someone who's environmentally unfriendly.
Yeah.
You know, that's like a big black check on it. But
knock on wood.
I'm just kind of tired of having that size of a shop too. When I first moved into that shop, I was sharing it with somebody. He was going to try to buy and sell motorcycles and realized in the first year he couldn't do it. I'm already there in a lease, so I kept it. But it's a lot of money every month, you know, which I signed the lease so nobody twisted my arm, but it kind of takes the fun out of it. So my lease is up at the end of October 25. So unless some crazy thing happens that makes me want to sign it again, because it's going to go up, rent never goes down. At the very least, I'm going to downsize. But I'm also considering going to a state that doesn't have all the rules and regulations too. So I don't know, if that's exciting, but that's pretty big.
It's exciting. It's a new beginning. There's a sign at the border of Arizona that says "Welcome back to freedom." So I guess that's where the freedom is.
Yeah, I wouldn't go there though. I'm looking actually at Nevada.
Yeah, you said Reno or something like that.
Yeah, and I don't want to. I've lived in Oceanside my whole life, but I say I could care less about the beach because it's not the same anymore down there. Like the water's dirty, no sand. Oceanside's turning into Newport Beach with all the buildings they're building. So it's not the same. It might be time. But if I don't leave the state, I'm at least going to downsize. So I might still be around here, just a smaller shop. Yeah.
Maybe in our shop.
Whoa.
Maybe in our shop.
Yeah. We'll see.
If you don't need much, maybe we can make room because you're a motivating guy.
Yeah.
It's fun to hang out with guys that do it at a higher level than you because inevitably you end up riding.
And I'm fortunate too with that whole thing I said about learning everything, where if I was just a painter, I would have to have the shop with a booth because it's against the law to not. And I'm not going to go back to painting at night and on the weekends so the code enforcement guy doesn't see me. Yeah. But doing the striping and the lettering and, you know, that kind of stuff, I can make a living out of my green box if I had to. I don't want to because I like painting things. And if I was just going to do motorcycles in this area, I could borrow Mondo's booth. You know, he's got a small booth for doing motorcycles or something. But, yeah, it's time to kind of say, make it good for the soul too. And it's hard here in California now. You know, I always talk to painters that are in other states, and they go, "What? What? Are you kidding me? What? Are you kidding me?" Yeah, that's how it is here. You know.
Yeah, but I think because it's hard also, that's where a lot of good dudes come out of here. You know, you don't have
Yeah.
that option to sit at home and, I'm going to take today off.
No.
Dude, if you take today off, you're not going to be in business next month.
No,
You
and
know, so
you talk about old man Tom at the shop. He
Yeah.
said he goes to a barber, some old Vietnamese guy in Escondido, and I think he said his name's Bao or something like that. But he goes, "Hey, how are you open 7 days a week?" And he told Tom, "I pay rent 7 days. I open 7 days."
Amen.
Yep.
Yeah.
They
That's
don't give
how
me
I always
they
think.
don't give me a discount on the weekend because I'm not there.
Yeah.
And my shop's like my garage too, so it's fun, and people come there. You know, I don't have to worry about, you're at the shop, you're not going to go see Otto or Dave, and no, they roll up, and then people hang out there, throw darts to leave, or, you know.
Yeah, Pete's got a little gate that sometimes you probably should close to keep the
Mhm.
gawkers out, because people will come from out of state all the time.
Yeah.
They'll stop by Biltwell for like 5 minutes, and they'll be like, "Can you take me to Pete's?" Oh, the real reason is you came by Biltwell is so we can take you to Pete's. You know,
That's okay.
Pete always makes time for him, and he's always got some treats.
Oh yeah, everybody brings treats there.
Yeah,
Too much sometimes, especially this time of year.
yeah. This time of year is it's a rough one. We've got a little platter laid out in the hallway at Biltwell right now, but I would say that was one of the few good things that came out of COVID is people quit sending all that stuff, you
Yeah.
know, and now we get a couple more.
Yeah.
They're coming, but it ain't like it used to be, you know. It ain't like it used to be, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to Parts and Labor too.
Parts and Labor, check it out.
Yeah.
Coming up, probably by the time this podcast comes out.
Say it might have happened by the time.
Yeah,
this
it
goes
will have
live.
happened, but that's our little expo.
Yeah.
Pete's kind of the painter du jour over there, the boss, the supreme guy. We have a little helmet art show, and Pete is going to pick the winner, I think, again,
Yep. And make the trophy.
and make the trophy. And for those guys that send in those helmets that will be on display for the first time at Parts and Labor, you know, it's a big honor for them to have Pete, I think, critique their work.
Yeah.
And then this year, Harley Davidson will have, they're going to take those helmets and put them on a little
Really?
traveling art show. That's what they're supposed to do. So that'll
Awesome.
be cool. And then we'll get them back sometime at the end of the year, and we'll put them on eBay and auction them off to help a charity.
Too cool.
So that's a cool little thing. We try to also give back to the community and the ecosystem. You know, I'm not as talented, at least, as you, but you know, Biltwell, we're always trying to do stuff like that helps pay it forward a little bit, because
Yeah.
that's how it keeps it going. You know, I beat up on the younger generation a lot too, but then there's a couple of guys that show up to the El Diablo run, and they rode 1,000 miles to get there on a
Yeah.
bike that they built, you
Yep.
know, with the girlfriend on the back that's a little bit mad because it was hotter than he said it was going to be.
Yeah.
And they still got to go home, you know, and I'm like, there's still some
And they're
kids.
coming there because you're doing a cool event.
There's still some kids.
It could have
doing-
been just an event. I'm not going all the way down to Mexico. You
Yeah,
crazy?
yeah, we're not the gatekeepers of the border. You can go down
No.
there anytime, but
No.
yeah, we do plant a flag in the sand. Say,
Yeah.
come down, let's
and,
party, you know.
and word spreads. So I'm going
You know?
next time.
So
You're doing that
all
right.
those kids aren't bums, you know. Some of them out there doing it, and we do try to, you know, extend the towel for
Sure.
them to sit on for a minute and hang out with us, and give them some place to congregate and learn a little bit.
Heck yeah. That's super cool.
David, what else you got?
That's
A
it.
little quiet today.
No,
Lay it
I was-
on me.
I
You
was-
switching decaf? What's going on? You all right?
No, purposely being quiet because you're doing such a great job. I was hoping Flynn could just cut me completely out at the end because I had nothing good to say. But yeah, no, this is great.
I want to turn this way.
Oh, don't.
I think you've had a lot of good stuff. I'm sorry if I stepped on your toes a little bit.
Oh no, that's fine.
He's a good friend of mine, and I enjoy listening
Yeah,
to him.
and you
again,
you did the prepping. I purposely didn't look at anything because I just wanted to talk about what I wanted to talk about, but I don't think we're supposed to talk about what I want to talk about.
Let's talk about what you want to talk about.
No,
I'm ready.
I think this whole thing is cool, and you know, for a guy like, I think a lot of people in Otter and I's age group, we grew up, if we cared about motorcycles longer than the last 5 years, we grew up watching Builder Bust and Biker Build Off and all that kind of stuff. And it's cool to, all the people that I'm meeting at this point in my life, like no way in heck would, the young Bob of 30 years ago think that he'd be hanging out with all these people he's today. So like, the fact that he worked at West Coast Choppers for 8 years is, to me, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like all those bikes that I saw on TV and saw in, Kid Rock's garage and all that kind of stuff, it just, the world keeps getting smaller and smaller the more, the longer I live. And it's neat to see all that happen. And just like all the, I was at, what's the Ford dealer up in Van Nuys? Galpin. Yeah, I was there a few years ago, and there was like a
mind blowing.
Yeah, like a new Ranger with like crazy paint job on it, and it's like,
they have like a city block or 3
like,
that are all just dedicated to custom.
Crazy stuff that
cars.
You painted in there.
Yeah, and their museum thing in there they call the collection. It's insane.
It's insane.
Oh my god,
it's wild.
Especially if you're from West Coast, that's the kind of stuff we like. I'm sure there's a guy with old Ferraris and Bugattis, but that doesn't really give me a boner. Like the stuff that he's got. He's got Roth stuff.
Bull Bachman, the owner of it, he's just got the passion for the 60s and 70s
for the
show
cool
cars,
stuff.
the crazy, like the stagecoach stuff and the toilet car and
famous show cars, like you said, from back in the day, like that one they had at Grand National Roadster Show last time that they just pulled out of a barn. And
he wants to do them right, which is awesome.
Yeah, well, like David said, the fact that you'll still hang out with us is pretty amazing. Not too many guys from those shows are around anymore or relevant still. I think that goes back to what you're saying about still having fun, and that's why you're still out there and you'll hang out with a young girl or guy and not give them the cold shoulder. And be approachable.
There's a lot of too cool for school people, and you're not one of them, which I appreciate.
It doesn't seem to have worked out well for them. So maybe some of you guys should follow Pete's lead. But yeah, I agree with a lot of those bikes you painted from whatever shops, is Bondo putty and paint makes a builder something he ain't, Pete's final touch on a lot of those things, not that they were terrible bikes, but Pete just dropping the cherry on top of the sundae, I think, is what made him really,
and that
really
whole
cool.
West Coast Choppers thing, that was a piece of history that's never going to happen again, so I'm sure that was part of that.
And man, on that, on that note, hey, good for that guy. You put together a dream team, but a lot of those guys are still very influential and still doing it and having the eye to pick that team. I say
all the time that at any given time we had the best of the best going through that shop.
Yeah, man.
And those are the guys that built everything.
Yeah, so it's real cool. But
I just got fortunate that I got to put my name on the stuff.
Yeah.
You know, the harder you work, the luckier you get. I wouldn't call it fortunate. I would say, that guy saw something in you and you didn't let him down. That's why he kept you around for eight years. It wasn't fortunate, man. It was.
And I'm
old Harold say.
Yeah, and I'm lucky now. Now I look at it and I go, man, that was crazy that I did that. But I went to work 168 miles every day because I lived in Oceanside. So what was good about that also is I didn't hang around there for all the bull that went on at that place. And
when you were done for the day, you went home.
I went home. I wasn't local, so I didn't hang out after work so I wasn't around for any of that stuff.
Yeah.
I just did my thing and went home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because of that, you've never been on E-News, probably.
No.
You're not in the
no
TMZ
paparazzi came and questioned me.
Right.
Yeah.
You've only been married 3 times, not 17.
No. No.
How many times have you been married, Pete?
Just once. Yeah.
It's perfect.
Just once.
Once is enough.
Yeah.
One
so
and
I've
done.
heard.
Yeah.
Still with Robin, though, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, maybe you put a ring on that, man. She's a catch.
She is.
Yeah. His girlfriend Robin's got this giant cat, like it's the size of this
dog.
wall.
Right.
What are those things called?
Maine Coon.
Maine Coon.
Dude, the cat
pounds.
is bad. When you come to Pete's shop and you see that little cat, it's a lot.
Yeah. Size of a tiger.
Except for all the hair at the shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's cool.
Every roll of tape.
It's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I got lucky to be at some cool places.
Yeah, no, that's fun.
But I'm going to say, like you said, it was hard work. It wasn't just being lucky, because lucky and then being in a situation, if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, you don't stay long.
Yep. When you go fishing, there's some luck, but it's also putting your line in the water over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
If you don't show up.
So I think your story is that same thing. Yeah, you were lucky that you had a ramp and you were influenced by surfing, skateboarding.
Yep.
If you're in SoCal, I mean, back in the day, like Pete said, there's these custom minivans rolling around. You got a little older, it switched to mini trucks.
Yep.
For me, I grew up in Elsinore, so I remember, dude, crazy Volkswagens and Hell's Angels on killer choppers, and my dad had some of that stuff, not as a high level, but as a young kid, I'm like, this stuff's cool. This stuff's cool, and getting drug around to the Pomona swap meet as a little kid and seeing some of it, how it was getting built and put together, and the parts that these guys were collecting, whether I liked it or not, it influenced me. It kind of ruined my life, because
Sure.
I just want to hang
Ruined
out.
mine. I can't leave anything alone.
Yeah, I know it has ruined yours. I can, but you
sucks.
Pete will get something new and cool, and the next day you show up and he's got it tore apart and he's painting it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just definitely a curse.
He's building what's that car you're building? 51?
A 49 Chevy.
49 Chevy. Yeah, it's
the thing that, man,
showstopper.
The little shop cleanup you did the last couple of weeks, everything's looks. You can see
we just did a big painter event at my shop, so I cleaned up and it was sitting out by itself. And man,
the brush off.
That's good.
Yeah, it was good.
The brush off. Well, we won't keep you any longer. You were a little tardy showing up here today, so that means Daniel's probably going to be waiting for you
He's
over
probably
there.
home sleeping right now.
Yeah, well, please, okay.
He was up all night, at the hospital. So
He's trying to keep up with Hot Dog. No. Shame on him.
No, he's fine.
Shame on him.
Yeah, I'm just glad he went in and got checked out.
Yeah. Well, we love Daniel. We love all the guys that hang out at your shop. Again, thanks for always opening up that sliding metal gate and letting us come over there and bogart your time, because it is special. It's not lost on me. I don't know if it's lost on
Josh,
David.
his bike bled out in my parking lot and big oil stain.
Oh.
Well, Josh is he's a special guy.
Yeah.
So we appreciate it.
We got plenty of dirt there to soak it up.
Perfect.
When you don't ride them, sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
Well, Pete, Hot Dog Finlan, we appreciate your time. We're going to wrap this up.
Cool.
Thank you, Mr. Hot Dog.
It was awesome.
An honor having you in the pod lab.
It was my pleasure.
We'd love to have you back sometime.
Heck yeah.
All
Anytime.
All right, Peter. Have a great day.
Rock on, dude. Rock on. Yeah. No, that's cool.
Thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Parts and Labor Podcast, brought to you by Builtwell. You got any feedback? You got any questions? Send us a voice recording or an email at pod@builtwellinc.com. That's pod@builtwellinc.com.